Welcome to the Dynasty Pros Free Agent Preview Show. I'm your host, Nick Young, and I am joined by Dustin at DDunnit13 and Jonathan Walker. Guys, great to have y'all. And introduce yourselves one more time, and let's get started.
Yeah, I'm Dustin. I'm a contributor with Dynasty Pros, also with Dynasty Nerds and QB List. Catch me at the DUnit13 on Twitter. Just happy to be here. We're going to go over kind of the free agency stuff that's happened so far, and then hopefully in this coming week we'll have shows every night to kind of go over what's happened each day. So we kind of wanted to do this show to go over everything that's happened and see where we go. So, Jonathan, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, hey guys. First time on the show. My name is Jonathan Walker. I am a contributor to DynastyPros.com, and you can find me on Twitter at RealJWSports. That's all I got.
All right, so let's get started. Naturally, we're going to start with the franchise tags. Not a lot surprising. Probably the biggest name on the list, Lamar Jackson, got non-exclusive franchise tag by Baltimore. What are y'all's thoughts on that? What do y'all think he's going to do? What do you think the Ravens are going to do?
I mean, personally, I think he stays in Baltimore. I think it's a move by Baltimore execs to see what the market will willing to pay him, and then they'll match it. I think only once in the history has someone been franchise tagged, negotiated with another team, signed their offer, and then actually played for another team. It's almost always gets matched. So I think it's just the Ravens going, hey, we're comfortable paying you, what you want, but we're not going to if we don't have to. So I think he stays in Baltimore, but it's going to get played out for a while because he doesn't have an agent, so teams can't talk to him directly for a while. So him not having an agent kind of slows things down because they can't talk to a player until I think the 15th.
Yeah, because that's when the tampering period opens. So with him being his
he has to wait till he's got to wait till the legal tampering period's over. So if other teams go out and sign a quarterback, his options might be very limited.
Yeah, if anything, I would just go back to the system I know and just hope that they get him some more weapons. Jonathan, what franchise tag striked you as the most odd? Jonathan, you there? Hello.
Looks like we might be having some technical issues with Jonathan there.
I think if I heard that question right, it was about, what is the strength of the franchise tag? Is that right?
No, which player on the franchise tag surprised you? Like, which one surprised you the most?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Can you guys hear me? Yeah, we can hear you, man.
Honestly, I would say Lamar. He's definitely the most surprising, getting hit with the non-exclusive. I do agree with, Dustin. It was okay. Yeah, I agree with Dustin. I feel the Ravens put the non-exclusive on him just to kind of let him explore, what the market is, because obviously without an agent, he feels like he deserves a lot more than, someone, as Daniel Jones caliber. He's done a lot more than Daniel Jones has. Obviously, he's been in the league more, than Daniel Jones has. And I feel like with him not having an agent, it does hurt him, just because he doesn't have that buffer in between him and the executives with the Baltimore Ravens.
I definitely agree with that. I'm going to do a real quick thing on my most surprising. Evan Ingram, tight end from the Jaguars. After hardly being used for the majority of his career with the Giants, the Jaguars got him, and needless to say, he blew it up. I think he had his highest receiving tally since the beginning of his career, since his rookie season, and it's just blossomed since. And with this franchise tag, they can keep him on, pair him with Calvin Ridley, Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, or a rookie, whoever they decide to bring in. So overall, I think it's a great choice. But do this. We're also going to add in the one and only Bob, the founder of Dynasty Pros.
What's going on, fellas? Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, we got you good.
Sweet. Something was buzzing, and I thought I'd caught little whispers of Lamar Jackson. So, I just, me rocking my Ravens gear here. Just thought I had to chime in there. No, I was watching the show, just tuning in, checking you guys out, man. I didn't expect for you to throw me in here, Nick, but whatever, man. It's all good.
Hey, if you just want to do your quick opinion, I can take you off air. No issues.
No, it's all good, man. The Lamar Jackson situation is just really messed up, for several different reasons. Not to backtrack. I know we kind of moved on from that, but the bottom line is in order to lock him up, in order to sign him, you're going to have to give him a guaranteed contract. Baltimore's been trying to sign him for 2 years and has been unsuccessful. And they're a very, very solid franchise, and they usually get these things done. And they've offered him the third highest, reports say at least the third highest quarterback contract in the history of the league, and he still turned it down because it wasn't guaranteed. So no team is going to play ball with him, because if any team makes him an offer, Baltimore's going to match it. So no one wants to do the heavy lifting for him. No one wants to do that work for the Ravens just for them to lock him up. And then on top of that, you have to deal directly with Lamar. There's things you can say. There's things you can say to an agent that you can't say to a player. If I'm talking directly with an agent right now, I'm telling him, I'm saying, listen, man, we love Lamar. Don't get me wrong, man. We want him here. We want him here long term. But we got to face the facts here. He hasn't finished he hasn't played a healthy season in almost 3 years now. And last year there was a lot of controversy. Could he have played at the end of the season? Could he have not have played? There was a lot of speculation, a lot of little rumbles that he sat out, and he said, listen, I'm not going back on that field until I get paid. So there's a lot of that going on. I don't think any team wants to mess with that, because they've got to deal directly with him. And if Baltimore hasn't been able to do it in 2 years, how the heck does Indianapolis or Atlanta or one of those teams, Tampa or whoever's looking for a quarterback, how do they expect to do it? So they're just not going to waste their time. A lot of these teams are picking high at the draft. They'll go with their guys. They'll try and get CJ Stroud, who's probably going number 1 unless Carolina trades out, which there's kind of rumors of that. But these teams don't want to mess with that. They got to throw. If you're not going to give him guaranteed money, then he's not going to sign, from what it seems, and no one's going down that road. So.
I definitely agree with that. So now we're going to move on to some signings. I want to hear y'all's opinion.
Let's first just go over the rest of the franchise tags. So Saquon Barkley was tagged by the Giants.
Yep.
Josh Jacobs was signed, franchise tagged by the Raiders. Tony Pollard was franchise tagged by the Cowboys. Jaguars franchise tag Evan Ingram, and then the Commanders franchise tagged defensive tackle Deron Payne, but they just reached a deal today with him, so I think we should jump there first.
Yeah, let's definitely do that. Deron Payne was signed to a 4-year, $90 million contract. He was the defensive lineman 16 last season. So let's hear y'all's opinion. How do y'all think he's going to do? And overall, what do y'all think about that signing?
And I'm not an IDP guy, so I'm not a huge, into it. But I looked at his stats, and he had 11.5 sacks this past year. Like, it's a good, healthy number of sacks for a defensive lineman. Kind of had a breakout year in his 5th year. So I think for a franchise that is maligned on some sense of like trying to break through, trying to get something going, the fact that they're willing to invest in a guy for 4 years to kind of lock down that position, keep a guy who all rights and like could have went out on the free market and probably gotten that, decided like they wanted to keep him in house and he wanted to stay there, shows that maybe it's a change in the culture there a little bit where they're willing to have some of these homegrown guys develop from the draft instead of just buying free agency like they had done in the past. But Bob, you're an IDP guy. What do you think?
It depends on the league. Deron Payne's he's an incredible interior defensive lineman. He is something. He disrupts a lot of plays. He's a guy that's, even though he had 11.5 sacks, he has more impact than that. He's a phenomenal player, and he's and if you're in an IDP league that has certain defensive line requirements, there's some leagues I play in where you have to have certain defensive ends. You may have to play a defensive tackle. That's in some really deep type of leagues, really particular leagues. If you're in a league that has to play a defensive tackle, he is, probably top 3. I mean, you got Aaron Donald there, probably top of the list, but he is a top 3, top 4 interior defensive lineman, especially in IDP leagues. So he's a heck of a player. They did not want to let him get away. He would have just broke the banks. Yeah, I mean, he would have racked up on the free agent market. So, yeah, they couldn't afford to let him go.
I definitely agree with that. Since we're talking about defense players and everything, let's keep going with the IDP. Jalen Ramsey. That was some big news today. Bob, what do you think? It was the Dolphins traded Hunter Long and a 23 third for Jalen Ramsey. What do you think about that?
I think it was a great deal for the Dolphins. I mean, they're going all in, and they didn't give up a whole lot. A 3rd round pick wasn't much. LA was really trying to get a 1st round pick for him. That was not going to happen, especially with his contract. And they've got the best cornerback duo in the league now. Miami does. So great pickup for them. But I think the most interesting part of this is I'm wanting to see what happens with the Rams now. They've been shopping Matthew Stafford. Apparently they're starting to get calls on Cooper Kupp. Who knows what's going to happen here? It looks like they might be blowing things up there, as well as I think they probably should be. They look like me in a dynasty league where I trade all my future 1st round picks to kind of win now. And I'm in a couple of leagues now where I'm just like, damn it, I want to be a part of this draft. I want to go get CJ Stroud. I want to go get this guy. I want to draft this guy. And I don't. I'm sitting around with, your wily veterans like Keenan Allen or, DeAndre Hopkins and things like that. I think that's kind of how the Rams are looking at things now. Like, listen, we're not going to be able to compete with Philadelphia. Not at all. So let's go ahead and just start building for the future. We have no friggin' picks. So let's move these guys in and rack up picks. I don't blame them one bit. I'm trying to move Stafford. I'm moving Cooper Kupp. I'm moving Tyler Higbee. I'm moving Aaron Donald, which they probably won't because he would just probably threaten to retire. I would trade everything there if I'm them. And this to me looks like the beginning of this. And now, as we're actually getting this, so we get a comment here from Front Office Pros. Do you think there's any way Aaron Donald retires now that it appears the Rams, might be blowing it up?
I think it's highly possible. So I have a couple of friends that are Rams fans, season ticket holders, and Aaron Donald has talked about retirement for 2 years now, and they've kind of coaxed him back. Like, they won the Super Bowl. It was like, all right, come back for another year. We'll make another run at it. Obviously, injuries played a big part in that, right? Kupp getting hurt, Stafford getting hurt, Donald getting hurt. I think if they go to trade Aaron Donald, he retires. I don't think he wants to play for another team. I think unless he goes like the Chiefs, right? Unless he goes to a bona fide winner and can play part-time. He's not going to go play for the Saints or the Panthers or the Bears. He'd play for like the Bills, the Chiefs, the Bengals,
A
Eagles,
contender.
right?
Yeah, it has
That
to
like
be
a
a contender.
strong contender.
Yeah.
So I do think there's a possibility he just retires outright and just goes, "Hey, I'm not here for a rebuild." Right? Save some cap space for the Rams. He seems to be a Ram friendly guy, like a team friendly player. So like I can see him going, "Hey, restructure my contract and I'll retire," type deal. Save them some cap space. I agree with you, Bob, that the Rams might be shopping everyone.
Well, do they?
Right?
They let go of Bobby Wagner for nothing.
Yeah,
Didn't even trade him. Didn't even get anything. Just cut him loose.
And I agree. Like they say Cup and Stafford aren't on the block, but I think they are. Like if someone calls and wants Stafford, which I'm not sure why you'd want Stafford because I'm not sure he can still play. Obviously Cooper Cup would be a huge gift for somebody. I know they've been trying to shop Allen Robinson, but no one wants him. Like they might just totally blow this up. Now you're right, Bob. They are like a dynasty. They're playing very much like a dynasty team. They went all in, trade a bunch of picks, won a championship, went the next year, tried to make a run at it. Things didn't happen. Now they're like, I guess we're done. Like wash our hands. We'll be good in 2025, 2026, because they just don't have picks. I liked the trade for the Dolphins. I'm a Bills fan, obviously. They do have a great duo, if not trio, of cornerbacks. Jalen Ramsey is getting a little old and does get burnt sometimes, like by some guys. You watch some of the clips against like Jamar Chase or Diggs or Darnell Mooney. Doesn't look great, but he can still hang out there, right? Xavier Howard on the other side. Cater who can come in, like, and be a corner for them, in the slot. They've got decent, safety. So they have a strong back end there on the defense, which is good because their game is predicated on basically chucking the ball and scoring points quick and then hopefully stopping you. So it's a little scary. I mean, a third is nothing. If I'm the Rams, I don't know why you take a third. A third is nothing for the Rams. They're going to get maybe a starter in 2 years from now. Like it's not an impact player now, especially on a rebuild team. Like surprised they didn't get more picks. Hunter Long has 1 reception in the NFL. I like Hunter Long, but he just hasn't had the opportunity. I doubt he gets it. I mean, if they trade Higbee away, he might, but we have no clue what he is in the NFL because we haven't seen it. So very interesting trade, but I do think there's a good chance that Darnold retires. And if they trade Stafford, Stafford could retire. He's flirted with that all offseason too.
I don't think so. I don't honestly, I don't know if Stafford or Aaron Donald would retire. I mean, I get it. I understand why, but they'd be leaving too much money on the table. There's just no way. And then I think that if they do get traded, they'll be traded to some kind of a contender. Stafford, there's really no telling there because if anybody's a contender, they already have their quarterback, with the exception of maybe the Rams. I mean, not the Rams, but the Buccaneers or something. But but I think we're going to hear tomorrow, possibly that Baker Mayfield has agreed to a deal with the Bucs. Aaron Donald could get traded to a contender. They brought in Hunter Long. To me, that just is like, yeah, they're talking Tyler Higbee somewhere.
That's what I think.
And just with all of that going on, why the heck wouldn't anyone be calling them about Cooper Kupp? There's not the free agency is, I mean, the best free agent wide receiver out there, Jacoby Myers,
yeah.
And Odell Beckham apparently, had that workout the other day, and this guy he's wanting $20 million a year.
He'll be lucky if he gets half that.
Bro, I mean, dude, you don't have a team, bro. Like you don't have a leg to stand on, literally. I mean, that's
he looked good. He looked good in that workout, though.
Oh, he looks great. Yeah, man. There's a lot of guys that look great, in workouts or in practice but listen, we know what Odell is, but he just can't stay healthy. And so I'd hate it for him. I'd hate somebody to invest a 3-year deal, 2-year deal into him and just for him to kind of, blow another tire or something like that. But I think that probably the next 2 wide receivers getting traded, DeAndre Hopkins, I believe, is probably out. And I would probably say Cooper Kupp's probably.
Oh, Steve's trying to cause drama. This is my buddy Steve in Front of Us Pros. I did a video with him the other day, and we got released today, and we recorded it, and we had an argument of who was going to have a better season, Odell Beckham or DJ Chark. So what do you guys think? Who has a better 2023 season, Odell Beckham or DJ Chark?
I'm inclined to say Chark, and that's just because I've been high on Chark. I like Odell Beckham. Nobody can doubt his playability. That man blows a tire almost every season he plays. So you might get half a season out of him. either the front half or the back half, but you're not going to get a full season. So I'm going Chark.
So you say your
I
boy
would-
Steve, your Steve, is your boy just trolling you right now?
He is just trolling me. So I did throw a poll, and it ended today, and it had almost like 300 and some votes, and it was, I believe it was 60, almost 70%. It was 68.8% votes for Shark and 31.4% for Odell Beckham, 306 votes. I personally think Beckham has the potential, like if he signs, right, he's not going to get 20 million, but I think he's got top 20, top 15 potential in the games he plays, right? So he may not play a full season, but we've seen him come in and play 6 to 10 games and have a great stretch. DJ Chark hasn't done squat in years, like in years.
I mean, he hasn't done anything since LSU, bro. If Odell Beckham, this is a loaded answer, but if he can stay healthy, if he's on the field, I think it's not even close. I think Odell Beckham would outperform
I agree.
DJ Chark.
That's right.
DJ Chark's going to be signed as a complimentary wide receiver. Someone like Dallas or someone that's wide receiver starving. I think they go and sign like an Odell because they're hurting, which means he's going to get a lot of attention, probably a lot of targets.
Yep. So we got another question in. Where does Allen Robinson land?
Steve, my boy Steve. Steve
from Fantasy Ladder.
My guy, Stevie.
I think Robinson goes XFL. Like, is he an NFL caliber player anymore? Like, I think he's good. I think he goes to a team. I could see him going to somewhere like the Lions to fill in that wide receiver 3 spot behind Jameson Williams and Amon-Ra St. Brown, which is where Shark was last year. Somewhere like that where he can be a complimentary piece. He's not a 1, he's not a 2 anymore. He's definitely a 3. Bring him in for limited packages, but he ran some really good routes last year.
You're getting trolled, Stevie.
I am getting trolled.
XFL, oh no.
No, I think he makes it in the NFL, but I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if he didn't get assigned right away. It wouldn't surprise me if Robinson sits for the first 2 months of the season and gets signed around the trade deadline and is a late season, just like Odell was a couple years ago, right? Comes in late halfway through the season. What we expected Will Fuller to do, what we never saw. So someone might not take a chance on him early, but take a chance for that playoff run with him.
I definitely agree. So now let's move on to probably my favorite part. Let's talk about the quarterbacks. Daniel Jones, 4-year, $160 million with the Giants. Derek Carr to the Saints, 4-year, $150 million. Geno Smith, 3-year, $105 million with the Seahawks. One of those doesn't sound right to me, and I'm sure y'all can guess who it is.
I think Daniel Jones doesn't sound right to me personally.
I agree. Like in my opinion, he's not worth $40 million a year. But it's like I've been telling everybody. The price of quarterbacks now, you're paying $40 million for a mediocre quarterback. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the Daniel Jones signing was we lock him up for whatever we can so we can franchise tag Saquon. I think it was the cheaper of the 2 options. So option 1 was sign Daniel Jones, franchise tag Saquon. Option 2 was sign Saquon, tag Daniel Jones. I think had they signed Saquon, it'd be a much bigger deal. So I think they mathematically saved money by signing Daniel Jones to this and then tagging Saquon. Everyone talk about the franchise tag being so unfair to running backs. Daniel Jones is going to get $40 million a year, and Saquon's going to get like 10 on the franchise tag. It's ridiculous. We have never seen a running back hit the open market at that caliber. So I think that's where the Giants looked at. They're like, what's the cheapest option to get both these guys? Because I don't think they would have wanted just one. Because they could have just franchised Daniel Jones and let Saquon walk, or vice versa. But then they're looking at a rookie or bringing in a veteran like a Tannehill or a Wentz or something like that. They probably wouldn't have gone out and got Lamar. So it's like they were kind of stuck there, right? At that point, Carr had already signed. It was pretty much right on the wall that Geno was going to sign. So it was like, do we just go and try to get one of these other guys? Or do we just save what we have in-house? They had a good season last year, a decent season. So I think they're thinking, man, we can reload, get him some weapons, and Daniel Jones might be okay. I don't think he's a great quarterback, but I think he's serviceable in the NFL if you have a good defense. And he had a good year with no wide receivers. So
now, wasn't Geno just there? Wasn't he
in New York?
Yeah, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was a Giant a couple years ago. Yep.
It's just it's funny how they decline Daniel Jones's fifth year and then end up having to do this. It almost seems like you're exactly right. It was more reaction. Choose the lesser of the two evils. You're liable to get more production out of signing a 4-year deal to that quarterback versus the running back. I mean, has any running back signed a big deal that a team hasn't regretted it?
No, and we haven't, but we also haven't seen a top 5, top 10 running back hit the market, right? Like we've seen, Todd Gurley re-sign with the Rams and sign a big deal and kind of then just fall off a cliff. It's funny that we saw twice this year teams gamble with 5th-year options. We saw it with Daniel Jones and we saw it with Josh Jacobs, and in both cases, it kind of failed the teams. Like they lost. Now in the Josh Jacobs thing, it was like a difference of like $2 million, so it's not a huge loss for him. But I think we're going to see a lot more teams picking up the 5th-year option. Dolphins picked up Tua's 5th-year option, and there's been talk that they are maybe not sold on Tua, but I think people are saying, okay, we'll just gamble on the 5th year and then kick that can down the road to see what we got instead of decline it, and then all of a sudden they have a breakout year, then you're stuck paying them. So, yeah, Geno Smith was a Giant, and all the way back in 2017, surprisingly, he was the backup for only 1 year. In 2017, he was a Jet before that, so he did play for the Giants back then, but obviously we know everyone thought Geno was a backup until this past year.
Geno was definitely a comeback story for me this past season. I picked him up in, I think, 3 leagues just as a flyer. And it paid off for me big time. Especially
I think it was he finished as like a top 5, top 6 quarterback in fantasy.
Yeah.
Yep, he did.
I mean, what the heck,
Yeah, it was QBR 5 in both standard and PPR. So, I mean, 30 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. He only ran 1 in, but 68 rushing attempts, 366 yards is not nothing to sneeze at. 4,282 passing yards. Like he had a good year. Obviously, he's got good weapons. But I think Geno is the case for a lot of these teams, like the Buccaneers go, hey, we'll bring in a Baker. We'll bring in a Jacoby Brissett who have played okay, who maybe just need a shot with really good receivers and they can have good years. So we'll see what happens. It's just I think Geno's going to shift the market. Like, hey, you can throw a guy out there as long as you have a good team around him and you can do well. I remember, right? We saw Trent Dilfer win a Super Bowl with the Ravens when they had a great defense and just an okay offense around Trent Dilfer. So you can do well with what I think athletically wise and skills wise is a subpar quarterback, but if you put him in the right system and use him right, you can have good years out of him, and that's what they got out of Geno.
Absolutely.
So I'm gonna insert a little controversy for the sake of this. Let me ask this question: with Russ just falling off a cliff this past season, do you say Pete Carroll made Russ just like he's reignited Geno?
No, I think it's it goes back to the Brady Belichick question as well. I think Pete Carroll definitely helped Russ, succeed. I do think Russ, obviously we saw him get better at the end of the season when Nathaniel Hackett left. I think Nathaniel Hackett was trying to use Russ like he had used all the previous quarterbacks that he's had, who are big quarterbacks. And Russ is obviously a shorter guy. Nathaniel Hackett didn't tailor his offense around Russ's skill set. Pete Carroll did. And Pete Carroll is really good at that. And he doesn't get enough credit to the fact that he tailors his offense around his quarterback skills. Russ will have a better year this year. Now they've got a new coach and a new offensive coordinator. They'll be all right. Sean Payton, I think, is really good at it, right? He had really great success with Drew Brees and accentuated Drew Brees' strengths and kind of minimized his weaknesses. It's very much what Belichick has always done. Sean Payton has done that before, and he'll do it again with Russ. I do think Russ helped make Pete Carroll better because Pete Carroll, obviously you need talent to manage your system, but you also have to put a system in place. They have to work hand in hand. So if I had to pick one who helped more, I think it's definitely Pete Carroll helped Russ more. But I don't think Russ is just a horrible quarterback without Pete Carroll. I think he's going to be good this year.
I agree with that. So, in some other not as notable signings, Robert Woods stayed in the AFC South. He signed the 2-year, $15 million, $10 million guaranteed contract with the Houston Texans. Is Brandon Cooks gone? Is he going to be replacing Brooks or Brandon Cooks for a little while?
Yes.
Yes, I agree. I think that's been right on the wall. Cooks wanted out last year. I'm surprised we haven't seen a Brandon Cooks trade yet today. To be honest with you, I thought for sure we'd get that before tampering period. I don't think many people want Brandon Cooks, to be honest with you, so I think that's why we haven't seen a trade. I don't mind the signing by the Texans. Obviously, they're going to have a rookie quarterback. I think Robert Woods can be that kind of safety blanket for a rookie, hoping it's CJ Stroud, and they'll be all right. So, and they'll probably bring in a rookie wide receiver too. They have number 2 and number 12 overall. So, I've been saying for a while that they're going to get Stroud and JSN. So they could easily pair those up and have Woods as their 2, and then Nico Collins as their big, guy, which would shift Robert Woods probably to the slot, which would be super great for him. So it's a decent signing, not a lot of money, for the Texans who are trying to rebuild right now.
Yeah, I think that's
Definitely.
kind of like, I believe when Steve was asking where like an Allen Robinson could land, there's so many different places, and that was a place I could have seen him somewhere like Houston. You want kind of a veteran type of wide receiver to help out a young quarterback, and I could see Allen Robinson end up with someone like Carolina. I mean, as weird as that would probably look, I could see him ending up somewhere like that. Probably not Houston. You would rule them out after the Robert Woods signing, but possibly like an Indianapolis or something like that. Someone that could use just a little bit of help there. But I obviously, I just think Allen Robinson. They don't want to cut him, but man, I don't think they have any choice. They just got to get, even if they got a 7th rounder for him, just like when the Ravens gave away Chuck Clark, for a 7th rounder next year, not even this year, next year. I mean, they were going to have to cut him, and he's a heck of a safety, solid. I hated seeing him go, but I mean, everybody knew that. I mean, he's going to get cut, and Jets jumped in there. Hey, we'll give you a 7th next year. Okay,
Take what you can get, yeah.
So, with the Robert Woods signing in mind, we just got asked, can he be a wide receiver 2 in fantasy this year? What say you?
No.
I don't think it's out of the question. I think he has a chance. I mean, it depends on who they bring in as a quarterback. If they bring in Stroud, I think it's more likely than if they bring in Richardson or Bryce Young. I mean, he was 2019, 2018, 2020, he was a wide receiver 11, 14, 13, and from 18 and 20. 51 and 21, where he only played 9 games. And then last year, he played all 17 games in wide receiver 59. Now, obviously, Tennessee has nothing for quarterbacks, right? And they're a run-heavy first team. He only saw 91 targets, still a decent amount, but it wasn't seeing the 120-some plus that he saw with LA. I think he has a chance. He's going to be the only guy. We've seen Brandon Cooks be the only guy on the Texans do well. Let me pull up Cook's number.
Yeah, but you got Mechie coming back too.
Yeah, Mechie will come back, but Mechie might take some time to get back in shape. So this past year, Brandon Cooks he played 13 games with wide receiver 49, but in 2021, Brandon Cooks was wide receiver 20, 134 targets, 90 receptions, 1,000 yards, 6 touchdowns. So if Woods can have something like that, and I think Woods is a better player than Cooks. I think he's different skill set, right? Better with yards after the catch. I could see it. I wouldn't bank on it. I think he's a solid wide receiver 3 for fantasy. But you can probably get Robert Woods for next to nothing, right? I think people are valuing him as a wide receiver 5, right? As maybe a once in a blue moon flex play. Like, I think he could be a every week starter for you. You're not excited about it by any stretch of the imagination because it's a bad offense, but you weren't excited about Brandon Cooks, and he went out there and put up 3 touchdowns and 60 the year before and 60 the year before that, on Houston on a bad offense. So bad offenses can have good fantasy producers. So I think wide receiver 2 might be his total upside. I would think he's a wide receiver 3, but it's definitely not out of the realm of possibilities with the right quarterback.
I don't think there's a chance in the world he could finish as a wide receiver 2. You've got people like Cooper Kupp coming back. You have DeAndre Hopkins playing a full season. Rashad Bateman coming back. You have Jordan Addison coming into the league. Jackson Smith and Nick Njigba coming into the league. You have a lot of wide receivers that will be coming back or entering the league, and so Robert Woods would have to finish in the top 24 in order to be a wide receiver 2. I can't see it. I couldn't see it at all. He could be I see him as being like a bye week type of play. It'd have to be a super deep league to where I'm starting him. Maybe I could be wrong, especially now. Listen, if Brandon Cooks does get cut or traded, that's just going to free up. I mean, who the hell else are they going to throw the ball to? So I can get you that. Yeah. He could get peppered with targets. However, I could also see the team depending on what happens early in the second round of the NFL draft, if maybe a Jalen Hyatt or something is sitting there at the top of the second round, they could go that route too, just depending what happens there. So to me, it would be an awful lot for Robert Woods to finish in the top 24. I would think that about 10 of the top 24 receivers would have to tear their ACL for him to even scratch the surface of even being anywhere around that. So I don't know.
Well, let me put this out there for you. Brandon Cooks last year played in 13 games. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of those games he had double-digit points in PPR leagues. So if Robert Woods goes out and half his games are double-digit points, like I think that puts him solidly. And Brandon Cooks finished as wide receiver 49 in PPR. Brandon Cooks plays all games and does half his games in double digits like Brandon Cooks did. I think that gets him pretty close. I think it puts him in the 30 range, and then he just needs a few more good games than bad games to really get in there. So it's possible. I think I have him as a high-end wide receiver 3, but I don't think it's out of the question, especially if they get if they get Stroud, I'm happy. If they get Richardson or Young, I'm less bullish on it. If they get Levis, I'm totally out, but I think a good quarterback could do well for Robert Woods.
Well, Brandon Cooks you said it a little while ago. I'm not going to argue with you or anything. But Brandon Cooks, yeah. I feel, is a much, much better wide receiver than Robert Woods is. Now, maybe Robert Woods 4 years ago, like LA Rams Robert Woods, maybe.
Yeah.
But Brandon Cooks is a very, very underrated wide receiver.
Yes.
Very, very good. And so I think that has a lot to do with it. But like you said, it depends on quarterback play. It depends on who else is getting targets there in that offense. So, there's a lot of stuff that can still happen. Robert Woods has definitely proven in the past that he can produce, but he needs to stay healthy. He needs to,
yes.
Who knows what kind of, maybe his best years are behind him,
Definitely. So, just to go over a couple other names real quick, we got Quincy Williams, linebacker for the Jets, 4 years, $18 million, and Brandon Graham for 1 year with the Eagles. They brought back one of their key defensive pieces. And now we're going to turn to some releases. A couple, not necessarily surprising names, but definitely impactful. Adam Thielen, former wide receiver from Minnesota. Where do y'all think he's going to go? Is he still going to be a top 10 wide receiver? What do y'all think?
Is Adam Thielen now the best receiver in the free agency class? He's in the question. It's not a great class. I could see him in Steve from Front of His Pros, I think, tweeted this a little bit ago. Like, could he pair back up in Buffalo with Diggs? Like, could Diggs recruit him? And I think that'd be great. Bills need another veteran receiver to kind of go on the outside and kind of can push Diggs into the slot. I would like that. I think he's one of those pieces that a contender brings as a complimentary piece. The Chiefs could bring him in to kind of fill out that wide receiver room. I think that's what Thielen wants. He wants to go to a contender, so I could see Chiefs or Buffalo being a place for him to land.
Buffalo definitely sounds like a great spot. I don't know why our heads go there immediately, but mine did as well. But looking at that roster, I'd have to see. I'm not 100% sure if Isaiah McKenzie is a free agent, if Jamison Crowder is a free agent. They probably are, but that's their slot guys. And Thielen is a slot guy, and I could see the Chiefs being if the Chiefs lose Juju, I could see him being a great fit there. I probably wouldn't put him with the Jets, depending where Rodgers ends up. I know they cut loose of Brandon Berrios, but I think they let go of Berrios because if Rodgers comes to town, he's bringing Randall Cobb with him. Probably.
I can see that.
So it just really depends. But yeah, I think Thielen's one of those guys that ends up. I think somewhere like the Chiefs, that could probably use that sure-handed type of possession receiver. Honestly, he could make any team in the NFL, better. He can help out any team. So, the Chiefs would be a good spot for him.
Jamison Crowder is a free agent, and Isaiah McKenzie will be one next year. So I'm not a huge McKenzie fan, so I would love to bring in a veteran to kind of hop in there. So
Yeah, Buffalo. Then Buffalo would probably be a good spot. You would think maybe someone like New England, with them losing Jacoby Myers, they're going to have that spot opened up. Going to have that slot receiver. But I could see them being a good landing spot for a Zay Flowers, a Jordan Addison. Yeah, I mean something like that type of wide receiver in the draft.
I agree. Now to talk about probably one of the most failed starting experiences ever. Chase Edmonds has been released by the Denver Broncos. He filled in decently for James Conner with Arizona season before last. Got sent to Miami, just didn't work out. He got sent to Denver for next to nothing. Where does he go now? He's a perennial backup to me now and practically untouchable in fantasy.
yeah, I agree. I think he's definitely untouchable for fantasy. I don't see him going anywhere. Like he has no value. Couldn't make it in Miami. Obviously, Miami brought him in and brought a bunch of other people in after his like 4 years in Arizona. Got cut, went to Denver, couldn't do anything in there. I'm more curious of what this says about the Denver backfield because there's been rumors that Javonte Williams isn't going to be ready to start the season. He could miss significant, if not almost the whole season. And so everybody's like, well, Chase Edmonds still there, but then they cut Chase Edmonds. So what's Denver going to do for a running back if Javonte Williams isn't available? Are they going to bring in, David Montgomery? Are they going to bring in a Devin Singletary? Or are they just going to go, hey, we're going to bring in, you know, Salvin Ahmed or someone like that, like a low end guy, and just go, hey, we're rebuilding? Like, are they making a run with it this year with Russ, with the wide receivers they have, whether they trade one of those or not? Like, what's Denver doing? Are they just in a complete rebuild? Like, I'm very curious to see what that looks like for Denver in the next 2 days, 2, 3 days if they sign anybody.
There's going to be a ton of running backs that are going to be available. I could see Denver just picking up more of a grinder. I could see them picking up like a James Conner type of guy. They had Latavius Murray last year. Wow. I mean, yikes. But I could see like a James Conner ending up there. But honestly, you're talking about Chase Edmonds. I could see Chase Edmonds ending up back in Arizona. They could probably.
I was thinking the same thing.
He could probably end up there. And I could see Arizona maybe going after someone like a Kareem Hunt type of back if they don't draft one. But this draft class is pretty deep at running back. There's a lot of guys that are going that aren't getting a lot of attention because of your Bijans and your Charbonnets and your Jahmyr Gibbs. There's a lot of guys that can be very, very useful in the backfield in this draft. So honestly, I think Chase Edmonds is going to be one of those really late signees. I mean, just one of those guys that, a training camp type of signing. I don't think anybody's going out of their way to go and bring him into town. I mean, but there are those places like Miami that loves that type of running back. They love getting like 20 of those guys, but it's like a quarterback. If you have 5 running backs, then you have no running backs,
Yeah, I could see him definitely catching on late in the offseason, right? Post draft. A team who's got, like the Jets who have Michael Carter, Brees Hall, and they just need like another back to fill up that roster for depth. And then you expect him to get a couple, then somehow he makes the team. And the next thing you know, by week 5, he's starting. He hasn't ever put up a ton of carries. I think his most carries, I'm looking, it's 116 in 2021 was the most rushing attempts he's ever had. So he's not a workhorse guy, but Chase Edmonds can fill out a roster. He could go to Kansas City and be the third guy, right? Take over the Ronald Jones role. Like Kansas City could roll out this year with Pacheco and David Montgomery and then Chase Edmonds and use Chase Edmonds sparingly, and he'll be productive when he gets the ball. He's just going to stick around forever. He's just going to be the guy that's always going to be in the league because he has enough skill set, he's got enough experience, and he's going to be cheap enough.
And there's a team that always likes to have those type of backs that can catch the ball out of the backfield, and the team I'm thinking of is New England. So that'd be someone that I think could be a decent or probably a good fit for him.
And don't put past the fact that he's been on now 3 teams. He's been on Arizona. He was on Miami to start the season last year in Denver. So like Kansas City, they might bring him in just for that familiarity with Denver. Like I know it's a new coach, but like he's been with enough coaches around the league where he has that experience and can kind of lend some of that veteran insight to a team of like, hey, this is kind of what they do, or this is what we did last year. Here's some like plays. Denver's going to be a little different because it's a new coach, but right, he was with Arizona for 5 years. Obviously, they have a new coach with Miami last year, so he knows what Miami's running. So like New England could pick him up and for that familiarity, and we might see Chase Edmonds on 3 teams this year. We just don't know. He could bounce around, but he'll always have a team, which means he's always going to have some buzz in dynasty leagues because you need that depth, and there's going to be injuries, and he's going to get picked up. There's going to be teams that are going to start him multiple times this year just because they have to, which is a shame.
Well, I'll tell you what, man, this may be the only podcast / YouTube show. I mean, this is groundbreaking. I don't know if any show in the history of shows has spent this much time talking about Chase Edmonds. And Robert Woods. So if we've put some people to sleep so they can thank us in the morning.
I agree with that. So we got one more big thing I want to talk about, but I'm going to get through the last of the releases. Ronald Darby, cornerback from Denver, has been cut. William Jackson III, cornerback out of Pittsburgh, has been cut. And Ben Jones, the center from the Titans, whoever he is, has been cut. So let's get to some draft news. The Bears traded the 101 to Carolina. In exchange, they got the 109, the 61st overall, a 2024 first, 2024 second, or 2025 second, and my man DJ Moore, who I just traded for last weekend.
Well, good trade for you.
Yeah.
Bad
news for DJ Moore. Bad news for DJ Moore. I mean, there's not been a receiver that has produced there in quite a long time. And I think if I'm a DJ Moore owner, I am trying to sell. I'm trying to get something for him now.
Well, let me bring up this counterpoint. What wide receivers has Fields had? Claypool, in my opinion, hasn't been that good. They haven't utilized Darnell Mooney the way they needed to. With a bona fide wide receiver one who's consistently put up 1,000-yard numbers since he's come into the league, what's to say that he doesn't continue that with Fields?
Well, they got to change the offense. I mean, it's like that Baltimore offense. You can put good receivers in that offense, but when they had Greg Roman running things there, they just didn't throw the ball enough. There wasn't enough opportunities there to produce and have a fantasy relevant type of wide receiver. I see that in Chicago. Depends on the offense that they're running, how much they throw the ball, but they are very, very, very run heavy. And Justin Fields is very quick to just scatter and rush and run instead of really trying to find that open receiver. He's playing college ball out there. And so that to me, DJ Moore is a hell of a wide receiver, incredible wide receiver. Watched him since Maryland, but I just don't know if he's going to be a fantasy type of relevant. I think he's playable, but I don't know. I don't know what kind of numbers he's going to produce in that offense. It is. If they start just peppering him with targets, then hooray, I'm all for it. But we haven't seen that yet. And so they've got to make some changes in order to make, to get him the ball. And when they do, then he can be fantasy relevant. But I think it's just bad news for his fantasy production. And with his name being kind of out there over the last couple of days, trending, he'd be somebody I'd be trying to sell for a profit.
Yeah, I think that's the hard part, right? Like, do I think it impacts his fantasy production? I say no. Like, what we've known from DJ Moore is he's a 1,000-yard, 4-touchdown guy. Up until this last year, where he had 7 touchdowns but 888 yards. If you look at 2021 with Darnell Mooney, 140 targets, 81 receptions, 1,055 yards, 4 touchdowns. Like, very DJ Moore-like numbers. He was wide receiver 23 in PPR. And that year, DJ Moore had 163 receptions, or 163 targets, 90 receptions, 1,157, and 4 touchdowns, was wide receiver 18. I think DJ Moore's slotted to be a wide receiver too. He's in that 18 to 24 range this year. Obviously, he has to now compete with targets. He's never had to do that in Carolina. He's got to compete with Mooney and Claypool and Kmet. So I think his production dips a little bit, but I still think he's the one there. I think he definitely takes over Darnell Mooney's spot. So if he can take the Darnell Mooney line from 2021 and be wide receiver 23, 24, 25, I'm okay with that. I think people want him to be, and some people think he is a clear wide receiver one, like he's in that 10 to 12, 15 range. I don't see it, and that's never been DJ Moore for me. So it's a great trade. Like the Bears picked him up. I love that the Bears got the first in 2024 because to me, that's the Bears saying, hey, if Fields doesn't work out, then we can draft a quarterback next year and move on. I'm not sure what Carolina's thinking. Obviously, they clearly like 2 guys in the draft, and that's why they moved up to 1. So it was a very interesting, shocking trade. Bears probably could have got a little more, but I think I'm happy if I'm a Bears fan with what they got.
Yeah, I actually traded DJ Moore in a dynasty league the other day, and I think it's the only league that I had a share of DJ Moore, which was weird because I'm a fan. But I traded him. I traded him and rookie pick 2-9 for Amon-Ra St. Brown. No, I'm sorry. I traded him and rookie pick 2-3 for Amon-Ra and 2-9.
That's a good trade.
Exactly.
I like that.
Exactly. I sold it on the guy moving up in the second round. I kind of told him, hey, some of these quarterbacks may slip. You may be able to get one of these, Zay Flowers type of guy. Actually, as a matter of fact, I did the deal right after we published the Zay Flowers article on dynastyfootball.com. So, yeah, that was pretty funny. So, so I made that deal and turned, went back a little in the second round, but turned him into Amon-Ra. I'll do that all day. So that's the type of stuff I'm trying to do. If I'm a DJ Moore owner, I'm trying to upgrade my wide receiver there.
I get that. So with the tampering period, free agency opening up, there's one rumor going around that I want y'all's opinion on. Baker Mayfield to the Buccaneers. Does it happen? If it does happen, is he back in fantasy relevancy? What do y'all think?
Go ahead, Bob.
Ooh. Wow. That rumor is out there, and I could see that happening tomorrow. If they're able to offer him a starting gig, I think he takes it and doesn't look back. If that rumor's legit. If not, this is kind of strange. And I don't know if I would want to see it, but he could be the quarterback of the Ravens next year.
Ooh.
It's way out there, man. It's way out there. But Todd Monken is back in the NFL. That was his offensive coordinator in Cleveland. I could see him if Lamar sits out, if Lamar holds out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, that's way out there. I mean, a lot of things got to happen. However, I could see that being a possibility.
That's really interesting. I don't think it happens because I also saw later on the report that it was Baker and possibly Jacoby Brissett to kind of give them a shot. I think they like Kyle Trask. I personally don't hate Kyle Trask. I think he's actually pretty good. He just hasn't had a shot. I was sitting behind Brady. It's weird that rumor came out today with the period starting tomorrow. So either generally this time of year, if rumors happen, it's because someone wants that rumor out there. Mm-hmm. So whether that's Baker's camp leaking that rumor and trying to drum up a market for him, or it's somehow Tampa Bay trying to get someone else to bite on Baker for whatever reason. I think it's more probably Baker's camp trying to drum up a market for him. I don't see it happen. I think they are content with rolling with Kyle Trask and bringing in someone. I mean, Brissett's not horrible, but hey, Jacoby, you're going to come in and compete with Trask, but Trask has the inside track to be the starter. I think Baker could be a starter. The Ravens thing is super interesting, Bob, because I do think Lamar sits out if he's not going to play under that franchise tag. So Baker would be a decent starter there. I've been saying for a long time that I think whoever wants to draft Stetson Bennett should bring in Baker as well, because I think Baker's a great mentor for him, because Baker had that mentality of, I'm the big guy, I'm going to come in here and dominate, and then didn't, and has been really humbled, and I think took his lumps and took the benching and took the trade into the Rams really well, and I think could teach Stetson Bennett some of that, like, hey man, you're not the man here anymore. Like, you were a big fish in a small pond, now you're a small fish in a big pond. And teach him, and hopefully teach him some of that humility. I think Baker, if he is a starter, is fantasy relevant. Like, he's had decent success. People still love that. Obviously, the draft pedigree is there. So I'd be curious to see what happens. If it does happen, it should happen pretty quick. If we're already hearing rumors, you would think it would happen pretty quick. The issue I have with Baker is that, like, even last year, 10 touchdowns, eight interceptions. Like he turns the ball over a ton. So I'm not sure, even if he signs with Tampa Bay, how long of a leash they give him if they have Kyle Trask waiting and possibly want him to start. If it's a close battle in camp, do they give Baker 5 games? And if he's, 2-3, or even 3-2, but has a ton of interceptions, do they keep rolling with Baker? So I think if he does get a starting job, he's fantasy relevant, but probably has a real short leash.
I thought a good spot. I thought that the Saints would have been a really good landing spot for him. But yeah, that changed. So I could see him, maybe end up somewhere he could be in Vegas. I mean, who knows what's going on there?
Yeah.
Yeah, Tampa. I think Tampa makes sense. They have those wide receivers there that they cannot trade because of their contracts. So maybe you want to keep some of those guys happy there. So maybe go grab like a veteran quarterback. And I don't know about Trask. I mean, I would like to see Trask play.
I would too.
There's a handful of guys I really want to see play, and Kellen Mond being one of those guys. I want to see Jordan Love friggin' play for a change.
I want to see, I want to see Sam Howell, and people forget that Kyle Trask was a 2nd-round pick. He was, I think, 4th or 5th in that Heisman voting. Got some first place votes. Like he had a really good college career. He has a little bit of a rushing upside. We just haven't seen it in the pros because Tom Brady's been there. I think they were content with rolling Trask last year. If Brady stayed retired, then obviously Brady came back. So,
but
I'm curious to see Trask play.
He's played behind Brady too. I mean, he's sat and he's been kicking Brady for a couple of years.
Yep,
that doesn't hurt.
The entire plan was for them to draft him and Brady to practically groom him to be the next starter.
Yep.
So I'm personally hoping Trask starts. I have him in a couple leagues.
So do I.
So we will definitely have to see how this goes. Guys, I want to thank y'all for being on. To everybody watching, we'll be back on same time tomorrow, 9:15.
Every night this week.
And every night this week at 9:15. So we'll be bringing you all the free agency news as it comes up. Thanks again for watching, and you guys have a great night.
See you, everybody.